We're here. Let's see who will log on first. Send me a comment. We think we have solved all our technical problems. So let's see, Donovan first maybe, or Lydia first, or Patrick first, or maybe Sophia first. Joey's first.
I was sharing the post.
Oh, my Joey. Mr. Joey was logged on first. Okay, let's see who my guess is going to be. Who's going to make it on first? Who's going to send me a comment first? Who else have we seen first, Mr. Joey?
There's Donovan and Sophie.
Oh, Donovan made it on. And Sophie?
Safe.
I saw Sophie's jellyfish yesterday. You made awesome jellyfish, Sophie. They looked really pretty. I like them. Sophie's dad posted her picture yesterday of your jellyfish. I think Sophie's jellyfish are the only jellyfish we've seen so far. So I need somebody to post their jellyfish. I'm real curious. And Sophie's was cool because I saw just the top of one coming up from the bottom of her canvas. I think you had 5. Did you have 5 of them on there, Sophie? I think so. They looked very cool. She had lots of neat colors. Good job, Sophie.
Sarah Elizabeth is there.
Hi, Sarah Elizabeth. How'd you do with your jellyfish? Did you and Mom paint jellyfish yet? I know you. This is last week of schoolwork probably having to get turned in. You guys probably have a lot to do this week.
Patrick and Lydia.
Hi, Patrick. Hi, Lydia. Did you guys do your jellyfish yesterday? I bet you had some cool colors. Or warm colors. Mr. Mark made a joke the other night when I was saying cool and not referring to the color wheel. So tell me, how many jellyfish did you have, Lydia? Did you have more than my 3? Sophie had 5. So I know you did an odd number. I know you did, because you're always really good at doing odd numbers like me. So today, I'm hungry today. Today we're making food. This is a really good lesson in how to create a picture without drawing the outline. And it's a great picture on how to create the shape without having an outline around it, and how to just use shading to create the shape. Doesn't my ice cream look good? It's banana ice cream. It looks delicious. I think after our lesson, I'm gonna have to go get myself an ice cream cone today. It just looks too good. So we're gonna make ourselves a sugar cone, we're gonna make ourselves some ice cream, and we're going to really look at, I actually did another one too that looks like strawberry ice cream. And when Mr. Joey and I looked at the 2 of them, we decided the banana ice cream looked better, and there's a couple reasons why, so we're gonna look at that before we start our drawing. This is a great one to practice shading and creating shapes without drawing an outline around them. So we're going to use our colored pencils today. Let's see how many people we've got logged on. Oh, it's only a couple minutes after 11. Let's see. How are we doing, Mr. Joey?
Well, so far.
Okay. Find your colored pencils. And all we need today is one of your pieces of mixed media paper. So if I remember right, we had 2 watercolor, 2 mixed media, right, Mr. Joey? And how did we label them?
Well, check mark.
Oh, that's right. We put a check mark. Did we put a check mark on the mixed media papers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yesterday you had a watercolor paper. Can you tell we've been doing this just a little too long? Are you guys ready to have summertime? We are. So find one of your pieces of paper that have a check mark on it. If I didn't have Mr. Joey here, we'd be in trouble, wouldn't we? We need a check mark. These are the thinner pieces of paper. Watercolor's a little thicker. We want one of the mixed media papers today. So it's one of the thinner pieces of paper. Should have a check mark in the corner. I remember we started to wonder whether to put an M or a W, and that would be confusing because depending on which way you turned the paper, it could be mixed media or watercolor. So you're looking for a thinner piece of paper, should have a check mark in a corner, and this is what we're going to use to make our ice cream cone today. And then all you're going to need is a pencil. So find a pencil to draw with. We're going to very, very, very lightly sketch. And find your little white eraser. Sophie and Casey and Nick, I meant to give you a new white eraser. I bet your white eraser is just about as small as mine. See how little my white eraser is? Sarah Elizabeth, I bet yours and Lydia and Patrick's are pretty small too. Should have given you when you come to pick up your clay this week. I'll put a new eraser in your bag since you've been with me for so long through all of our quarantine here. So get your eraser, get your pencil, and find your mixed media paper. We're going to use our colored pencils, so pull out your set of colored pencils. If by any chance you're out there watching us and you don't have colored pencils, this is a fun project to do. You could even just use crayons. You could use markers. Crayons better than markers. So find your colored pencils. My niece Kelly, who's a teacher over in Atlanta, has been doing projects with me, and she's learning to like her colored pencils. A fellow teacher gave her a set of colored pencils, not used to using them. They're growing on her. She said, "You'll like this project, Kelly. It's great." So find your colored pencils, get your pencil and your eraser, and we will get ready to make ourselves some ice cream. I'm going to make y'all hungry by the time we finish this project. You'll all want to have ice cream with your lunch. So once you got all your materials, give us a thumbs up. Make sure we know we're ready to go. And tomorrow we're going to be using our red flare pens and doing another ink wash. So let's get ready to make some ice cream. It really looks delicious. Looks like a nice big swirled ice cream cone. So are you ready to draw?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Joe's gonna, are we moving the camera in? Okay. We're gonna move the camera in so you can see a little better. I'm gonna put my bag on the floor. And do you need me to move my chair, Mr. Joey? Okay. I got my ice cream cone here. This way, which way do you want to go? Mr. Joey's getting set up.
Right there.
Right there? Okay, Mr. Mark says that's a good spot. I'm actually going to show you something as we start to draw. I'm going to show you my strawberry ice cream I drew. I didn't draw the whole ice cream cone because I think my ice cream cone turned out cool. But I drew some strawberry ice cream just to see if I wanted to make vanilla or strawberry or banana or strawberry ice cream. So this is my strawberry ice cream. And I think my banana ice cream looks better, don't you? I don't know, it looks more like swirled ice cream that you put into an ice cream cone. I think my strawberry looks cool. I like its shading. I mean, it looks kind of, you know, three-dimensional, but this looks more like ice cream cone, doesn't it? This ice cream looks more like I swirled it into the ice cream cone than this one. This is something when you're doing art, sometimes you'll do something and you'll look at it, and we can always tell right away if we don't like it, right? You can always tell right away, that doesn't look as good. Oh, I like that one better. The hardest part is figuring out what makes you like it better. What worked better on the banana ice cream than the strawberry ice cream. And so these are a couple things we're going to keep in mind while we do our ice cream. One thing on this ice cream, see how, you know, it bunches up at the sides. We get all these curves like this. And then do you notice all my shadows? These skinny little shadows that come from where some of these curves pile up. See all these little skinny shadows that I colored across here? They're pretty skinny. They're not colored in real thick and dark. And they all swirl the same direction. Look at this shadow. Got a shadow here. I got a shadow here. Shadow here. They're all curving the same way, aren't they? Look at how all these curves stack up the same way. Till we get to the very top where you have to make your little dollop on the top. Now, if we look at the strawberry that I thought didn't look quite as good, I got swirls coming this way, got swirls going this way, got a really thick swirl here. Most of my shadows of my swirls are really big and thick, and they also come from both directions. Some over here, some over here. This one this way, this one this way. These two technically are going the same direction, but then look at this one. This one's curving up and going this way. So I think we're going to concentrate on trying to keep our shadows skinnier and going more in parallel curves. And I think our ice cream will look a little better. So this is my strawberry. So you can be thinking about what color you want to do. Mr. Joey said you could even do mint ice cream. If you've got a couple shades of green, we could use the greens. You could make mint ice cream. We got a couple shades of blue, so you could do, I guess, is there such a thing as a blueberry ice cream? You could you could use your black and put little chocolate chips into your ice cream. And so be thinking while we draw. You can kind of be thinking what color and what flavor ice cream if you got a favorite ice cream. And we decided the light colors really work the best for the ice cream. So we'll see as we color. First, before we color it, we're going to very, very lightly sketch it. Now, when I say lightly, I don't want you to press hard with your pencil. Do you see very many pencil lines here? We don't. And some of the shape is just identified by the shadows of the colored pencil. So when we sketch, if we press really hard with the pencil, not only will I see my cool ice cream color here, but I'll see all the gray dark lines of my pencil. That wouldn't look as pretty. So we're going to sketch lightly. So try not to press too hard with your pencil. You can always go back over your pencil lines with your eraser. Once we got it all situated and we got it the way we want to, we can go back and erase with the eraser. And if you don't press that hard, it kind of lightens up the pencil. So we'll do that. But we're going to start with the ice cream cone. So I'm going to stick my strawberry ice cream over here. And we're going to look at my ice cream cone here. And we're going to start by drawing the ice cream cone, which has kind of, if we could see the bottom of the ice cream cone down here, it kind of goes in a tall, skinny V, doesn't it? This is like a sugar cone, I would guess, right? Does that look like a sugar cone to you? So we're going to imagine it goes down here to a point. So if we look at where we put this on the paper, this is about the middle of my paper, right? Is that about the middle? Yep. My pencil's laying in about the middle of the paper. So I wanted most of, oh, Mr. Joey keeps pointing to where I can look up and see you. This is the middle of my paper, right? So I want my ice cream cone to start down below the middle. I want plenty of room to stack up lots of ice cream. I love ice cream. So we're going to stack up a lot of ice cream. So we don't want our sugar cone too high up on the paper. So if this is the middle of my paper, I'm going to find the middle of my paper over here. That's about the middle. And I'm going to start with drawing these curves for my ice cream cone. If this is the middle of my paper, I want to start down about this far. And the first thing I'm going to do is give myself a curve like this. I'm not going to draw the top of my sugar cone because what happens to the top of the cone? It's going to get covered with the ice cream, isn't it? So we're actually going to start with this line down here. So here was the middle. I'm going to start down here and I want to give myself a nice, just like we've got a nice big smile. We want this nice curve going here. Not like a big circle curve, but we're looking at the ice cream and we want this cone to look like it's round. Okay. When I draw from the side, sometimes I get lopsided, so I got to turn it around every once in a while. So this is this bottom edge of the ice cream cone. Then we get a little bit of diagonal lines. We're not too much of a diagonal. You're only on about an angle like this. Okay? And these lines come just in a little bit. We don't want our cone to look like a straight cone. So I'm going to come in just a little bit on my curve here. I'm going to make a little bit of a diagonal line. I'm pressing harder so you can see my lines. I'm going to put one on the other side too. So I gave myself a couple little diagonal lines like this. Then we're going to give a little curve underneath. This should follow the same kind of curve as this one. All these curves are going to kind of be duplicate, kind of parallel curves. Except these two curves are going to be real close together. So I'm going to come in here and put another curve underneath here. I can look at this curve and that's how I can make it copy. I'm just going to stay the same space away from it as I make my curve over here. So does that kind of follow? It gets a little skinny over here maybe.
Talk louder.
Okay, are you getting your curves on there? I'm going to erase that one. Got a little skinny as it got to the edge here. when you're making a copycat line, you can start your line and just make sure you stay the same distance away from that. If it's the same distance away, it's going to follow the same curve. Okay, this is where on an ice cream cone we get this skinny little curve, this skinny little like rope around it. So I'm going to make one more line right up near that line. So making a copycat line underneath that one. And this gets a little curve out at the outside. There we go. Little curve out at the outside there. Okay, did you get a little copycat curve underneath? Okay. Now, I got two more diagonal lines coming down. They go on the same angle. I'm going to actually pretend, look at your curve you made up here, this diagonal. Just like it bumped and jumped into this curve, we're going to continue that line. So I want it to look like it came right from this line, bumped into here, and it's going to keep going. This is going to be a big one though. Just like it bumped into here, and I'm going to keep going. Okay, so we want these to be a little longer. This is where you get some of those little squares on your ice cream cone. Okay, it seems, my curve here seems to be just a little funny. There we go. We're going to fix that curve a little bit. It seemed just a little too much like a circle and not a curve. Up, I like that better. Okay, so you got your curves looking good. We got these longer diagonals here. We get one more curve. This curve is a little funny though. It's not so much a little rope as it is almost like a shelf. So I'm going to come down with a little bit of a curve out like that. And then it's going to come down almost like a diagonal there. It's almost like I'm making the side of a heart there. Okay, this gets a curve underneath it. This curve should kind of follow the same kind of curve as these. Okay, so see if you can kind of match up your curves a little bit. Okay, let's take a few minutes, see if you can get all your curves on there. I'm going to kind of look at mine and make sure they kind of match up. I'm kind of piddling around here, fixing them up. So this one curves like this one, like this one. They should all kind of match. So see if you can stop and look. I'm going to turn mine so I can actually see it. Yep, see, I tend to get a little lopsided when I'm drawing from the side. So while you guys get your curves down, I'm going to kind of fix my curves so they don't look lopsided. Okay, you're getting all your curves on. I'm going to fix mine. Mine just tend to get a little lopsided since I draw from the side. Okay, I'm straightening mine up a little bit. Kind of hard when you're drawing from the side and you don't see it straight on. Okay, so at this point we should have our big curve we started with at the top, and it curves up on the sides. Then we had a couple little diagonals here and another skinny little curve. Then some long diagonals and this kind of like rim, like a cup there. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did on this diagonal. Pretend like you started up here. Diagonal comes down, bumps into the skinny curve, jump over it, keep going with your diagonal, bumps into this kind of collar curve, and then our diagonal is going to just go straight on down. Just like that diagonal went all the way down. We're going to do the same thing here. Bump and jump until we get down and take the diagonal right off the bottom of the page. And there's our beginning of our sugar cone here. Mine just looks a little lopsided. I think we'll pull this guy over a little bit. I think that'll look a little bit better. Okay, you guys shouldn't look too lopsided because you're drawing facing you. It's kind of weird to draw on the side of your paper, but we're doing okay here. Okay, does mine look better, not look so lopsided? How's yours look? Okay, that gets our cone going. We're not going to draw in all these shapes. We can just draw those with our colored pencil when we're shading. Although you could give yourself a few guidelines down here. You know how in a sugar cone it gets these checkerboards that are kind of like diamonds, kind of checkerboards stood up on their end? We could come in here and lightly give ourselves some lines here. So I'm going to turn mine so I can see it. I'm going to give myself 2 diagonal lines in the center. And then I'm going to give myself some diagonals, but they're going to be a little bit of a curve to them. And then crisscross them this way. So these will crisscross this way. Okay, so if you want to come in and give yourself some diamond shapes down here, you can do that. Give yourself a big wide strip in the middle like this, and then you can come in and give yourself some diagonals. They have just the littlest bit of curve to them because you want them to feel like they're coming around the cone. So if you want to give yourself a couple guidelines like that, you can. We'll worry about those a little bit more when we start using our colored pencil. So now's the fun part. We're going to draw our swirls of ice cream. Are you all ready to draw your ice cream? Now we're going to keep in mind, we're going to start by drawing some of just the bottom edges of all these layers. This ice cream cone's got a lot of layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our scoop on the top. So we're going to draw these lines. We're going to keep in mind, look at my edges. This bottom layer, which is all scrunched down, just has like 1 scoop to it. Maybe it's got a little extra scoop on this side. Then we see how some of our layers get these 2 curves, 2 scoops, 2 letter C's. We're going to do a little bit of that as we stack up. Before we stack up our ice cream cone though, what I want you to do with your pencil is give yourself, in a very, very light line, give yourself a guideline. What kind of shape does this ice cream make? It makes a triangle shape, doesn't it? Gets scallops and swooshes and curves on the triangle, and the top of it doesn't come to a point, it kind of flops over. But its basic shape is a triangle, right? So I want you to give yourself, on top of your ice cream cone here, remember this part of the ice cream cone is going to be a little thick. So we're starting like up here, right? But give yourself a little guideline. I'm going to press just a little harder so you can see. Okay, can you see my line? Mr. Joey, can we see that? I want you to give yourself a guideline like that. This helps us as we start stacking up all our swirls. It shows us where to keep them confined inside, so that ultimately we'll end up with this nice stacked swirl of ice cream. That just helps us as we go along. We drew it really, really lightly, so it's really easy to erase it because we don't want to see these lines when we're making our ice cream. Okay, you got your triangle on there. We're going to draw this bottom edge of this first scoop. This first scoop got really squished out. Most of these lines are almost horizontal, aren't they? In between my layers, it's pretty much a horizontal line, except I didn't just draw a straight line, because when you squirt ice cream out of one of those soft serve things, it makes nice little curves as it falls in. So think of making a horizontal line, but we're going to put a few little curves. Now, when I say we're going to put a few little curves, I'm going to turn this one over just as a scrap paper for a minute. If this was our ice cream cone here, right? And I've made myself my guideline, right? When I say mostly horizontal and put a few curves, we don't want to get this, do we? Does that look like how ice cream falls when it gets squirted out? No. So we want to mostly make a horizontal line. Do I want to just go like that? No, because ice cream's never that perfect, is it? So we want to think in between this and this. We want to give it just a little bit of a curve as it comes across. Mostly horizontal, just get a few little curves in there, okay? You got the difference here? Okay, we're gonna put strawberry back over there. And this way. Okay, can you see my picture here? Okay, so we're gonna make our first little scoop of ice cream here, got it? So I'm gonna come along and I'm going to make a little bit of it curve out past the edge here. So I'm gonna start with a little curve out there. Here's my guideline, I'm going straight across, remember? But I'm gonna give it a little bit of curves. So I got a little curve out here, and I'm gonna come in and give it just a little bit of curve as it comes across here, and maybe another little curve out on this side. Now, do your curves have to look just like mine? No. And remember, I'm pressing really hard, just so you can see. I want you to press as lightly as you can, just so you can see the pencil line, okay? Keep forgetting, I keep looking at Mr. Joey's camera. Okay, so have you got our first layer here? We're gonna add another layer. Now I'm gonna make this one have a couple double little curves out here on the side, okay? So I'm gonna let it come with a little curve out here and then get a bigger curve. So its sides are gonna have a little curve and a bigger curve. So just made my sides here. And then I'm gonna come across with just a pretty much a horizontal line. I just put a little bit of wave to it. I tried to make it not match up exactly with this one. We don't want them to look identical, okay? So I got a couple little curves on the side for this bigger layer here. Now I'm gonna put a layer on top of that. So I'm gonna make a curve over here, make another curve, and maybe I'll make a little curve over here. Now remember, we're following your triangle. Remember how you gave yourself this guideline here for a triangle? While you make these sides on our layers, you want them to follow that triangle. See how I didn't make it go way out here? Okay, now I've got to make a, really what I'm doing is making a top to this layer that's underneath it. So let's come across here and mostly horizontal, but I'm just connecting these layers across here. Okay, it's starting to look like an ice cream cone. Is yours starting to look like an ice cream cone? Looks good, I'm hungry. Okay, so we're gonna add one more layer on top here before we get to our little dollop. I call it a dollop on the top. So I'm gonna give it a couple curves out on the outside of this layer too. So we'll bring a layer up. Whoops, my pencil's running out. Bring a layer up. Maybe I'll make a big curve at the bottom, a littler curve at the top of this layer. Okay? So give yourself a couple squishes, couple curves on the side. And then let's connect them through the middle here. Okay, now I'm getting ready for my little dollop, my little like Hershey kiss on the top of it. You know how when you squirt soft serve ice cream out and when you stop it at the top, it always looks like a little Hershey kiss, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm gonna put my little Hershey kiss on the top here. Don't want a whole bunch of curves on it because this is where the ice cream stops. So we'll just put a little round coming up. I'm gonna come up to the point of my triangle I drew and curve over, okay? So come up this side of your guideline. When you get to the point of your triangle here, curve it over, just like the top point fell down. And then we're gonna come on this other side. Remember, you're following this triangle guideline that you gave, okay? So we're gonna come up. I'm gonna get skinny up here at the point and let it just flop over into this little point there, okay? I might have gotten just a little too skinny there. I'm going to widen that out just a little bit on this side. Okay, so let's not get so skinny so fast. We'll let it curve out like that. Okay, now stop and see. Do you like your ice cream? Does it have a good shape to it? Does it look like ice cream? Mine looks like ice cream. Oops, I forgot to connect this. Instead of this being one giant little scoop, I do want to see a little bit of a line here. Okay. So make sure we've got a little bit of a curved horizontal going in between our layers here. I'm going to give myself a few of these little guidelines just because I don't want to start shading like I did on the strawberry ice cream and have it turn out, I like the other one better. So just so I don't forget how I want to shade, I'm going to give myself some of these curves in here. And if you notice, look at the outside, this second scoop that we did here. See how we made these two circles on the outside here? That's where my shadow comes from. Right in between these, I got a swirl that comes across. See my two circles on this next layer up? That's where my swirl's coming from the bottom here and swirling right across to there. Okay? So I'm gonna look at where my little curves on the outside come, and I'm going to give myself just a little line. I just want one line. This one can go down like this, so I want them coming the same way. We'll do one here, and we'll do one up here. So we get all these on the same angle. See how they all come like this? Like a bunch of little parallel swirls. Okay, might even give one coming from right down here. Now those are called contour lines that we would be drawing on the inside of an object. You know how sometimes when we make like a beach ball, and if we draw the curves to make the stripes on the beach ball, they're curved like the shape of the beach ball. Those inside lines are called contour lines. Contour lines help us see the shape of the object. The line on the outside is called the outline, and the lines on the inside are called the contour lines. So we've got some contour lines on our ice cream here. What I want you to do is we've got, and I suspect you can really see your pencil lines really well. We want to take your eraser and we want to go over those pencil lines. Don't press really hard with it, but if you go over them, it's going to lighten them a lot, because we don't want to see the pencil. We're going to want to see the colored pencils we're going to use. Okay? So if you've drawn really lightly, you won't even need to go over your lines with the eraser. But if your lines are showing up kind of dark like mine, then go over them with your eraser. Don't press too hard. You still want to see where you have to go. But we're going to try to lighten up those lines. I think you can still see mine. I'm trying not to lighten mine too much because you need to see them. Brush all that eraser stuff off. Try to brush it off on the table where you're working so it's not all over the floor. Okay, got all my eraser brushed off. And I think you can still see my lines a little bit, right? Are we still in the frame good, Joey? I keep moving my papers around.
I don't know, because I don't know where that little box is.
Okay. Okay, you got your pencil lines lightened up a little bit? I got some really dark pencil lines here, so I'm going to try to lighten up just a little bit more. Okay, how are you doing? Did you get all your little contour lines on? You got your pencil lines lightened up? Are you ready to do some shading? We're going to start with our ice cream cone. And what I want you to think about, we're not going to outline the outside of the cone. We're not going to draw a line with our pencil, our colored pencil, everywhere. We're going to think of our pencil lines as guidelines, and we might not even cover the whole pencil line with our colored pencil. But what we're going to start with is your orange. So find the one, you probably have to look and double check, because to me this looks like red. It's not though, it says orange on it. The one that looks red is the one to me that looks pink. So sometimes pencils don't look quite like how they're going to show up on your paper. So find your pencil that says orange. We're actually going to draw our cone with some orange. Then we're going to go back and add some brown to it. We're even going to put black in a couple places. Okay? So find your orange. Make sure it's sharpened so you got a little bit of color showing. And we're going to start at the top of our cone. But what I want you to do is when you're using your colored pencils and you're shading, you need to look at where is the light parts, where are the dark parts. Because we want to press harder with the colored pencil where the dark parts are. That's where we want the most color. Where it's light, we don't even have to color with the orange colored pencil. We want the paper to help show us the light parts. So we're going to use the white of the paper as white instead of using a white colored pencil. We do have a white colored pencil, but we're going to use the white of the paper. And see how even though when we look at this, it gives the impression of an ice cream cone, right? There's spots in here that the white paper is just showing. See how I didn't even color any orange here and up in here? I left white paper in some places, but because most of it's orange and I have a lot of light orange going right up to that white paper, it gives you the impression the whole thing's the same color. So we want to look at where the lightest parts are, which are kind of down this center and more on this left side. So we're going to choose that this right side's where our darker shadow is. So I'm going to start with this first curve we made on our ice cream cone. I'm going to use my colored pencil to make some shadow on this ice cream cone. And the coolest part is my shadow of the ice cream cone here, this dark part of the ice cream cone, is actually going to identify the ice cream on top of it. Instead of drawing a dark line on my ice cream, I'm going to make the dark line be my cone. So I'm going to come in here. This is my outside of my ice cream cone. I know I want this side to be dark, so I can go ahead and go right over my pencil lines. I'm pressing hard with my orange. I'm going to go right underneath the line of my ice cream here. And I'm going to go over my pencil lines, over to about there, not quite all the way to the center. And then I'm going to press really hard out here at the outside. Now, the other thing that helps our ice cream cone look round, besides our contour lines we made by making curves here, that helps us see the shape. When I'm drawing with my colored pencil, I want my pencil lines, my colored pencil lines, to follow that curve too. So don't be drawing up and down like this. It'll look like we squashed our ice cream cone flat. So make your lines, when you're coloring in with your shading, you want your shading lines to follow that same curve. Now I pressed really hard out here on the outside.
You're using your orange, right?
I'm using my orange, yes.
Not red.
Not red. Nope, I didn't want a red ice cream cone. I was talking about how my red looked like pink. So you kind of have to look for the name on your colored pencils. They should all have a name down here at the bottom. So use your orange. Actually, you're the artist. Could you make a red ice cream cone? Sure. Could you make a blue ice cream cone? Sure. Could you make a purple ice cream cone? So really, you can choose whatever color you want. If we want our ice cream cone to look like this one, I'm using orange first, then we're going to use brown. I pressed really hard back here, and now I'm pressing a little bit lighter. The way I make myself press lighter is I make myself loosen how I'm holding the pencil. I was gripping it really tight like this to press hard back here, and when I want to press lighter, I just tell myself, let go with the pencil a little bit, let go with the pencil a little bit. So I'm going to press lighter as we come across here. I'm going to get a little darker up here right underneath the ice cream because this big dollop of ice cream is casting more of a shadow on my sugar cone here. I'm going to get a little darker down here where it's curving in a little bit. And then I'm going to skip. I'm going to come over here to this other side. Because remember, I want to make myself leave it light here in the middle. Now, is this side, do I want this side to look as dark as this side? No. So I'm still going to come over here, and I'm going to lightly outline the outside, lightly outline underneath where that ice cream's hanging down, lightly come across here. See the difference how lightly I pressed here? And then I can come in and I'm going to add a little shadow, but I'm going to press lightly over here. I don't want as dark of a shadow over here. So I'm going to let it start getting lighter much quicker. See how light it is compared to over here? So we want to shade lightly. I'm going to start pressing so lightly you can't even see it. That's our idea. We want to press so lightly your pencil's barely touching the paper. Sometimes you even miss the paper. Sometimes you might not even touch it. Remember, you want your pencil strokes to go the same curve as the ice cream cone. And just keep putting just the tiniest little hint of orange on there. Look how pale it is. You can hardly even see it. I'm getting just a little bit more right up underneath where the ice cream hangs over. And see how we can now see where that ice cream is? My ice cream cone shadow is going to identify that bottom edge of the ice cream. Now, this one shaded lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, so it just blends right into the white of the paper, doesn't it? My pencil's barely touching over here, and I really don't see where the orange stops and the white starts, do you? Over here I can kind of see a line, can't you? This is, we colored really dark, then we got a little lighter, and so now we need to come and get even a little lighter as it comes towards the center. So press the same amount and then start pressing lighter and lighter and lighter. Think of leaving a little bit of that white paper right there in the middle. Okay, we got a nice little shade going there. That looks pretty good. I might bring this over just a little bit more. There we go. Might make right up under this dollop just a little heavier there. Okay, you got some nice shadow going on there, some nice shading. We're going to do the same thing as we step on down. Look at this section. We're going to leave light in the same spot. So my light's right here. So this is where that section's going to be the lightest too. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have more dark on this side and less dark on this side. Okay? So I'm going to start coming down here. I'm going to draw my edge. I'm pressing really hard, remember. I'm going to go right along the top of that skinny little swoosh there. And I'm going to color this in dark. And then loosen the grip on my pencil a little bit. Get a little bit lighter. Get a little bit lighter. A little bit lighter. And I'm going to come over here. This is lighter. I'm going to come up my little vertical line here. I'm going to make it a little bit darker at the top because this scoop of the ice cream cone is going to put a little shadow underneath on this part, okay? So make a little darker right underneath over here. I'm still not pressing as hard as I did over here. Pressing a little bit lighter over here. Let it get light in the middle. So this middle's light just like that middle. Now I want this kind of little rope, this little tiny curve that we made, I want it to show up. So what I'm going to do is on its outside edges here, I'm going to get a little dark right at the outside corner and on the bottom there. And I'm not going to color anymore. I'm going to come over here and do the same thing over here. Put a little at the bottom there. And I'm just going to put a little bit of a line. Now I don't want to just leave it blank like that. So do you see in here how we got a color in a few spots? But I always left just a little of that white showing in places so we could see it. If we color it all in, it's going to kind of disappear because it's so small. Now, I'm going to do the outside of my cone here. I'm going to put my diagonal lines on like this. I'm going to leave a little bit of a square in here. This looks like those squares that go around on the ice cream cone. All I did was make two sides of a square. So it's going to follow this curve. I'm going to put one side of a square here, and I'm going to make the other side follow that diagonal. Then I'm going to put a copycat line in right close to it. And then I want to see if I can see like a little line coming up here. So let's make that, I want it to kind of follow straight up like that. So we're going to put a little line in here and put a copycat line next to it. It's almost like when we draw an eyeball and we draw a shape to make a reflection to remind ourselves not to color there. These little lines are going to remind me don't color so hard in there. I'm going to come over here on the side. Remember how this little edge did this little collar here? I'm going to get a little dark around the corner of it here. And I'm going to come up and get a little dark right in through here underneath this one. A little dark over here. Not pressing quite so hard over here. Hard up near the top here, but it pressed a little lighter as I went down there. I'm going to press like sort of hard in the middle here, and then let it get lighter and lighter and lighter. I'm going to come around and press a little hard right there and let it lighten up as it comes into the middle here. You notice how I made my lines here? And then when I shadow next to them, I don't really want to see my line. So I made my shadow equal to how hard I pressed when I made my line. Okay? So on this side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to shade right there as hard as I drew my line, and then I'm going to let it get a little lighter. See our little curve down here? I can come across and give that a little bit of light. My lines are curving. When I draw with my shading, they're making them go in the same curve as the shape of my object. We want our shading to go in the same kind of curve. Okay. Now, I don't want that so light over there. My lightest part's here in the middle, isn't it? So I'm going to come in and give a little shadow over here and right up underneath my little curvy rope thing there. And get a little lighter. So I didn't leave a whole lot of the white of my paper on this section. Got pretty light in the middle overall. So this curve here, we left a lot of white on the top, put some dark at the bottom. So I'm going to start with a darker line at the bottom of this curve. I'm going to keep most of my shadow down here at the bottom of this curve. How's your shading looking? Are your ice cream cones looking round? Are we starting to get a little bit of round contouring coming with them? I'm going to put a little shadow right in here, right as this one comes around. I'm going to leave that white in there because it lets me see that curve. Darken this little edge over here maybe a little bit. Okay, so we're letting the white of the paper help see the whole shape of our ice cream cone. We're going to do this bottom part down here, and then I'm going to show you how fun it is to color the ice cream. I made this little diamond shape. Are you guys caught up? Give Mr. Joey some thumbs up here so I know whether to keep going. Do you need a little time to catch up with your ice cream cone? Send Mr. Joey a couple thumbs up if you're doing okay. Okay? I'm going to make the edges the darkest here. And see, do you remember where we drew these little lines to make kind of diamond shapes? I'm going to kind of leave the lines white initially. I'll go over them with a little orange, but I'm going to think of leaving those lines white when I start. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is put a little bit, a very light line down this center where I drew this little middle part. I pressed very, very lightly, okay? And then I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna give myself a very light line on the outside here and a very light line on the outside here. Whoops, oops, that line was a little bit further out than my little curve thingy there. Okay, so I've got those little guidelines for myself right there. I'm gonna come in here now and think of coloring in with some light lines just inside where those pencil lines are. So I'm gonna think of making light lines right inside the box or the diamond that my pencil lines made. So I'm kind of like very lightly giving a outline to my diamonds that I made. We want to keep, you want to feel like that line goes straight on through, so these lines line up with each other. If it doesn't look exact, that's okay, because we can kind of fudge and shade in more in some places. Okay. Okay. If you want to spend more time on this, that's okay. When I come up here to start doing ice cream, just stop down there. This is really fun to take your time with and create these shadows. I'm always looking in the wrong place. We got a new camera today. You don't have to catch up to me before we go to the next spot. If you're working on this and you're really liking how it looks, take your time. Shading like this is really fun. So just watch, see what we're gonna do, and you can go back, because this will save as a video, and you can pull it back up and watch me doing it, okay? I kind of drew inside my little diamonds here, and I'm gonna put just a little bit of shadow. I'm gonna color in a little bit of them over here on this right side of my ice cream cone. I'm going to use a little darker, I'm pressing a little harder over here. And then when I get more towards the center of my ice cream cone, I'm going to press lighter. Even within my little diamond here, see how I pressed really hard down here? I'm gonna get a little lighter as I come up on this part. I might press a little darker right here in this corner, and then get a little lighter as it goes towards the middle. And I might get darker as it goes towards the corner. I can make my corners a little darker and have the middle of my diamonds a little lighter. Overall, out here at the edge, I want it to be pretty dark, because this is my dark side of the ice cream cone, remember? So in here I might get a little lighter. I want to at least be as dark as the lines I put there. I don't want these lines to jump out. I just want to see the color jump out at me, okay? So if I made lines this dark, I need to color them that dark. In the corners of these little diamond shapes, we can press a little harder. Oh, I'm liking my ice cream cone, because ice cream cone's starting to look like an ice cream cone. Okay, so see how inside my diamonds I have a lot of different shades. At the corners here it gets a little darker, it gets a little lighter in the middle. Over here, these diamonds on this right side of my ice cream cone are overall a little darker than these towards the center. I left them a lot lighter. We're just gonna put a little bit of color in this little center thing. I really have to go get an ice cream cone after this, because now I want to look at the cone and see how much it looks like my ice cream cone. So I'm just going to put a little light color in that middle, just so it's not totally white. And over here I didn't do as many diamonds. I made bigger diamonds over here. I don't know why, but I'm going to put a little bit of lines where they were. I don't think I'm even going to draw all my lines over here. I'm might not even fill in all the lines because I'm going to leave that side of my ice cream cone a lot lighter. Okay, so I'm going to come out here to the outside, and then I'm going to get a lot lighter as I come across, have it a little darker down here in the corner. I'll do the same thing here. I'm going to get it a little deeper in this corner here. I'm going to let it get really light as it comes to the middle here. A little darker out here at the edge. And just get really, really, really light. And put a little bit of shadow where I made those lines and get really, really light. This is the best exercise. When you first start with your pencil, press harder and then loosen your grip and let it get lighter and lighter, and see if you can manage to shade from dark to light without seeing where it stops and starts. This is a great drawing to practice your shading. Practice loosening the grip on your pencil. Okay, so that side of my ice cream cone gets a lot lighter. Looks a little funny because I've got a little bit darker here, so I might darken this one just a little bit. And darken this a little bit more. So there's not such a contrast going from here to here to here. Okay, better. Now, we've left our lights. We've got dark orange, we've got light orange. I used a little bit of brown to give it even darker. So in our darkest spots here, I came in with just a little bit of brown. I'm not going to do this all over. We're going to move up to our ice cream cone. But this is cool. You can take your brown colored pencil and go right over the top of the orange in the spots that your orange is the darkest. Give yourself a little brown on top of the orange. It's very subtle. Oops, got it a little outside my line there. It's a little, very, very subtle. Doesn't make a huge difference. You might be going, well, this is dumb. I can't even see it looks any different. But step back and look. It gave just that little bit darker spot that you need. So in your darkest orange, you can go around with your brown. That's something we can do while you work on this afterwards, after we go get our ice cream cones. Okay, so every place you've got the really darkest orange where you press the darkest, go ahead and use your brown in some places. You can even, in just a couple places, only on this side, you could come back with just a little black on top of that brown. Just right out at the very, very edge. Right on top of where the brown went. Okay? So you can add a little bit more dark to it. What I'm going to have you do is look at making our banana ice cream. Now, if you want to make strawberry, you could use red. I'm going to use my yellow and make some banana ice cream here. And the same thing that we were doing on the ice cream cone, we're going to do on the ice cream part. We're going to look at where we want to leave the lightest parts, where we want to leave the darkest parts. We're going to press harder with the yellow where it's going to be darker, and press light where it gets lighter, and then leave the white paper where it's the lightest. So my bottom layer down here got more shadows in it, right? So I'm going to come in here on the bottom part, and looks like I've got this big swoosh coming here. So I'm actually going to come out here. I'm going to come around. I'm pressing very hard with my yellow. I'm going to let it swoosh right up from there with this nice dark yellow. Okay, I'm going to let it swoosh up right from here. You can always add more dark. We don't want to start with too much dark. I'm going to give a little swoosh right up like this. Get really dark here. I'm going to get dark down at the edge of my scoop of ice cream. I'm going to get dark right up here underneath the scoop that's on top. So I'm giving myself a really dark line. Out here on this little scoop, I'm going to color all that in dark. And then I'm going to just lightly, very lightly shade a little towards where I left it white. Just very lightly. That's all I'm going to do on that bottom layer. I left some white paper right through here, right in here. Now, here's my nice big double scoop I gave myself. Remember how we drew our lines for shadows in it? I'm going to come where those lines are, and I'm going to give myself a dark line right along that line, and then get lighter and lighter. I'm going to come right over here and right along this line. I'm going to give it a really dark edge, and then I'm going to get lighter and lighter and lighter. I want most of this to stay really light. I'm hardly pressing right here. I'm going to come out here on the edge. It's going to get a little darker, but that's all the dark I pressed. I only pressed right there, and then I'm going to start getting lighter and lighter and lighter as it comes towards the middle here. This is almost going to look like vanilla ice cream. It's going to be so light. Okay? I'm going to come up here. Mr. Joey's laughing at me. He doesn't think it looks like vanilla ice cream. He thinks it looks like banana ice cream. Okay, I put a little shadow here, and I'm going to get really, really light as it comes across. I'm going to put a darker shadow right across the top of this one, because this big dollop on top of it's going to cast a shadow under here. I'd rather this shape be shown by the dark underneath it. Okay, so I'm going to get really, really light. Okay, how's your ice cream? Ooh, it's looking like ice cream. Okay, next little dollop up here. I got my lines. They come from, my lines come from where the scoop dents in here. So get dark out on the outside, and where it comes in, I'm going to give myself a dark line. Same over here. I'm going to get dark right out here on the edge, and where it comes in, I'm going to give a dark line. And then I'm just going to lightly, lightly, lightly rattle around that dark line. Put just a little bit of very, 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 very light yellow. I'm leaving most of the paper white. Okay? I'm going to give a little bit of color out here on this curve, but then I'm going to get really, 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 really light. I'm going to, because this scoop's on top of this scoop, right up underneath, I'm going to get dark on this scoop. That lets me leave that part really light. And remember, we're going to swish over here like this. So this is going to get this big scoop on top of it. So this one's going to get dark right there. And then really, really, really light. See how much white paper? We're going to show even more white paper in this one. Just going to put my two dark lines right there. Get all my eraser things off. And I'm going to come just around here a little bit. This is very, very light. I'm not pressing dark on this outside. I get a little dark in between them there, but then lighter. I'm going to be really light out here on this side too. I'm going to leave all of the white paper showing there. So we just want to leave a lot of white paper showing. Underneath here's my Hershey Kiss dollop on the top. Underneath here, I'm going to put a little dark shadow. Then I'm going to lighten it up. And we've got our little dollop on the top. So I've got nice little shadows coming in from the edges. We got our little dollop on the top. So I want to come from the point and make the point a little dark here. And I'm going to swish a line right down in the middle there. Kind of a dark line. I'm going to put a little dark out on this edge here and then get it really light. And I'm going to put a little dark coming up into this little swish I made. And then get this really, really light. I'm going to color in, I'm coloring very lightly, but color in most of this side over here where the dollop curves over. Okay. Now, that gives me all kinds of cool shadows, and I could just leave it like that. It looks really pretty. It looks very three-dimensional. It's got lots of cool shadow to it. But I'm going to actually use my brown. And since I want my ice cream to look nice and fresh and light like banana ice cream or vanilla ice cream, I'm going to use the brown very, very little bit of it. The brown's just going to come in and accent where my darkest yellow is. Okay? So I'm not going to shade out lightly with the brown in hardly any places. I'm just going to use the brown to highlight the darkest yellow. So I had really dark yellow on this bottom layer. So I'm gonna just take the brown, gonna outline right around where that dark part went, and I'm gonna curve in a little bit with it, because remember I colored this in pretty dark. And I got this dark shadow from the layer above it. I'm not pressing really hard with my brown, just light enough that I see it, okay? So I pressed really hard with my yellow right underneath this layer to give a shadow. So I'm pressing just a little bit hard with my brown, just to emphasize that shadow. Now I'm only doing one single little bit right up underneath my line. And I got really dark right in here, so I'm gonna put a little brown right in there. And right from that curve there, okay? Now on this layer, I got really dark right here, so it's almost like I'm just adding a line of brown. I'm gonna come out here where I made that pencil swish. I'm gonna put just a little bit of brown right in there. Do the same thing over here. I'm going to emphasize this little outside corner on here because I pressed really hard with my yellow and got really dark right there, because this scoop on top shadowing that. So I'm going to come around here, put just a little brown right up on this top edge, a little brown right on this top edge. This is just where I pressed really hard with my yellow, going over just a few places where I pressed really hard with my yellow, my darkest shadows with the yellow. I'm putting just a little bit of brown, just a little bit. I'm not pressing as hard as I can, and I'm just putting almost like just a single little line of brown in there. It's kind of almost going over where my yellow pressed hard on my pencil lines. Do a little bit up on this one. We did a lot of dark yellow right here, remember? But I'm not coloring the whole thing in brown either. The brown is just a little accent for the darkest shadows. A little bit right in here, a little bit right up here, and a little bit underneath in here. I don't even want to go out on the edges up here. I want this to stay really light up here. But that top dollop kind of casts a big shadow. So we'll put a little brown in there. Okay? And then I got this swish. And remember how we did dark yellow, kind of wide dark yellow? I'm just going to swish my brown right up the middle of that dark yellow, so it comes right up where it's falling over. And right underneath where it's falling over, I'm going to use a little bit more of my brown. Coloring very lightly. I don't want that to get too dark, but I want to get the feel like that, you know, is curving over. So I'm going to put a little shadow in there. And I might put just a little bit out here. Pressed hard with my yellow right there. So add just a little accent of brown out there. And there's our ice cream cone. Doesn't it look delicious? Doesn't it make you want to go out and eat ice cream? Let's see, I just dropped my brown in there. Here it is. This is where if you wanted to go back down in your ice cream cone, see, I would add a little dark on my ice cream cone right underneath this first scoop of ice cream by putting a little shadow right underneath the ice cream. See how it's now identified the edge of that ice cream? It lets that ice cream really stand out by putting a little more shadow on the ice cream cone. Instead of adding shadow on the ice cream itself, we want the shadow underneath the ice cream to really set off. Now see how the ice cream pops and you really see it? So you can go back with your brown and add some more shading in your ice cream cone. Work on the shading in your cone. The key with your ice cream here is to not get too much color in there. Let the white of your paper show so the ice cream looks really light. Now if you were making strawberry ice cream, you would add a little bit more red, but you'd be barely pressing. So if you're making vanilla ice cream or banana ice cream like Miss Jenny did, leave a lot of the white of the paper. The further up you go, the more white paper you want to see. So did I make you hungry? Do you have to go eat ice cream? You probably have to eat your lunch first. So eat your lunch first, then you can go get an ice cream cone. You'll have to tell me tomorrow if you ate ice cream. And we are going to be using our red flare markers tomorrow. We're going to do an ink wash. We're going to have a crab hunting some shrimp. So very low country. If you guys like shrimp and crab, that's what we'll be doing tomorrow with our red flare markers. We're going to be doing an ink wash, and we will see you tomorrow. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's right. Good thing I got Mr. Joey and Mr. Mark here. Remember yesterday how we said we have 5 weeks of names to draw? We drew one yesterday. We're going to draw one every day this week. Do I still look here?
No.
No. I'm looking here. Okay, so I'm going to draw a name. And let's see if I've got lots of names in here. Have I got some names in here? Oh, there they are. Okay. Mr. Mark's got a very big pot. Okay, so got a name. That's who I've got. I'm going to hand the pot to Mr. Joey so I don't drop it. Got it, Mr. Joey? Let's see. Oh, look. This is my new friend that I haven't met yet. Sarah Elizabeth Phillips. Sarah Elizabeth's been doing art with her mom every week since week number 2, like Lydia and Patrick. So I just drew Sarah Elizabeth Phillips. You have a very long name, Sarah Elizabeth. Can you see it? It just barely fit on my piece of paper. Oh, can't see it. It says Sarah Elizabeth Phillips. And I'm dying to meet Sarah Elizabeth, so hopefully you'll be able to come to summer camp this summer. We'll have a credit put up with your mom's name, and that'll give you $25 off summer camp. So we'll stick Sarah Elizabeth's name up here on my little chart, and good thing Mr. Mark remembered our name today. So we will see you tomorrow. Bye.